Good morning, one and all. Today we are going to discuss about flame photometry. So what is flame photometry? It is nothing but emission of characteristic radiation by element, and the correlation of the emission intensity with the concentration of the element is the basis of this flame photometry. So earlier we had discussed before starting the chapter, that is instrumentation method of analysis. This comes under optical methods. So we had discussed the definition. So how optical methods works. So optical methods, mainly we are going to correlate the interaction, nature of interaction of light with our material. So first we had seen colorimetry. Now afterwards, second example for that optical methods is flame photometry. So here in the colorimetry you have observed that we are measuring the light absorbed by our solution. Whereas in flame photometry we are measuring the emission intensity. Another difference, in a colorimetric experiment we have used color solutions. In flame photometry it need not to be. So you can do for color solutions as well as non-colored solutions also. So there we are going to measure absorption, here we are going to measure emission. So that is nothing but absorption spectroscopy, whereas this flame photometry comes under emission spectroscopy. Both are optical methods itself. So what is this emission, how we are actually going to measure the emissions, let us see. So if you take any atom or an element, for example sodium, so its atomic number is 11, so it has got central nucleus in which contains protons and neutrons. So 11 protons, around which 11 electrons are revolving. So these between the electrons and protons present in the nucleus there is some binding energy. With that force, electrons are going to revolve within that atom only or element only. So if you flash some amount of light on this element or atom, so for example if you are going to put some photons onto the surface onto this element or atom, so photons are nothing but they are packets of energy. From photons, energy is transferred to the electrons present in that element or atom. So when these electrons get that extra energy from these photons, so the binding energy between photons and these electrons will came out with that binding energy and they will eject from the atom or element. And they will eject means to say that they will, from that energy level they will go to next energy level available in that atom. They won't come out of the atom or element. So when they got extra energy from these photons, which are nothing but packets of energy, they will jump to next possible energy level in that element. As you know, electrons are present in different shells, K shell, L shell, M shell, N shell, and etc. So each shell has set of energy. When the electron is present in that cell, it has some energy. So next possible shell has got higher energy than that of this shell. When electron got that extra energy difference between those two cells, it will jump from lower energy shell to higher energy cell. In our case, so when we flash photons onto our element or atom, this energy has been transferred from this photon to our element for electron, and this electron will now jump from lower energy shell to next possible higher energy cell. Wherever that shell is, whenever electron into that higher energy shell, the atom or element become unstable because that shell is associated with higher energy. So once again this electron comes to same parent shell by losing that whatever extra energy acquired through photon. This will be in the visible region. This emitted light will be in the visible region. So this extra energy will be liberated by this electron in the form of light energy, which will be fall in the visible region, that is from 400 to 800 nanometers. That's why we are going to see, when we are going to burn any sodium element in your flame, in your normal Bunsen flame in your lab, you are going to see yellow color. So due to this transition, electron jump from a higher energy to higher energy shell to lower energy shell, it will liberate that excess energy in the form of visible light. So that emitted energy we are going to measure in flame photometry, and we are correlating that to the concentration of these elements or atoms present in the solution. So in our solution we can't take elements or atom, instead we can take ions of that particular element or atom, and they will undergo reduction to element, and they will undergo electrons of that element undergo transitions from lower energy shell to higher energy shell, and when once again they will go back to their lower energy parents lower energy shell and liberate light. That liberated light, otherwise called as an emitted light, will be measured and correlate to the number of ions present in that. Now, so this is the energy axis. So this is the lower energy shell E1. So this is the energy associated with lower shell. This is the energy associated with the next shell. This is called ground state, and this is called excited state. So higher energy shell, if electron enter into higher energy shell, we tell that it is in excited state. So energy difference between these two shells is Hv. If this Hv amount of energy is supplied to the element or atom in the form of photon, then this transition takes place, and then once again emission takes place when electron return from this to this, leaving energy in the visible radiation. We are going to measure that emitted radiation and correlates it to concentration. Means to say that depending upon the number of ions present in your solution, when you introduce your solution into the flame, so depending upon the number of ions present in your solution, approximately some number of ions get excited. Means to say this thing happens, and number of excited molecules liberate some amount of energy. So amount of energy liberated, emitted radiation, is equal to number of atoms excited, which is equal to number of atoms present in your solution matrix. Okay. Now, as I told, when you burn sodium in the flame, you will get yellow color flame, because energy emitted when you excited sodium atoms, energy emitted will be in the form of yellow light, because it emits light in the yellow region. So you know VIBGYOR. So if you know VIBGYOR, that is violet, indigo, blue, green, orange, red, or blue, something like that, VIBGYOR. Okay, so you know the region, you should know the wavelength of each particular region. So if sodium atoms excited, it is going to emit yellow radiation, because sodium atoms, when electrons ejection electronic transitions occur in sodium atom, whatever emissions takes place, that will be in the yellow region. Similarly for potassium, it is violet region, calcium red. So these are the corresponding emitted radiations of these elements: sodium, potassium, calcium, lithium and barium. As you see, all these elements are alkali elements. So this flame photometry holds good for only alkali elements. Why? See here how we are going to induce these electronic transitions in these atoms, in these elements or atoms, means through flame. Flame means heat energy. So heat energy is enough in order to bring electronic transitions in these elements. If you take other type of elements, flame or heat energy is not sufficient to bring electronic transitions. Otherwise, even also if you bring, those emissions are not correlated to the correct concentration. That's why in particular we are going to do flame photo. We are going to use flame photometry to estimate only alkali metals like this, because very less amount of energy, that is our emission, our visible light is enough in order to bring transitions in these kind of molecules. Okay, that's why we are going to use flame photometry only to estimate alkali metals like sodium, potassium, calcium, lithium, barium and magnesium. Okay, this is the theory behind how emissions, electronic transitions results in emissions, okay, in elements, in alkali elements. That's what occurring in flame photometry. So as I told, these emission, in order to occur these transitions, we have to burn, we have to supply heat energy. How we are going to supply heat energy in flame photometry? we are going to burn our compound in flame. We are going to introduce our element or atoms into the flame, our ions, otherwise called as ions, into the flame. In flame, so many things are happening. After these things, the elements or atoms are going to emit the radiation, emit the corresponding radiation. Okay, so now let us see the, when we are going to introduce your solution whose containing some ions, and you want to know the concentration of ions, you are going to introduce that into flame photometry. So flame photometry contains, main component flame photometry is flame. We have other components as well, so we will discuss that little bit later. Now let us see the series of things happening when we introduce our sample, our solution containing ions whose concentration is to be measured into the flame. Now when a solution containing the sample element or the ion is aspirated into the flame, series of changes takes place at the flame. What are those? First, salt. So first the solvent gets evaporated, leaving behind the salt in the flame. So we have dissolved, for example, we have dissolved NaCl in the solution. You need to calculate the amount of sodium ions present in that solution. What you do? First you have to take that solution, you have to aspirate, otherwise introduce that into the flame. So what happens when you first introduce into the flame your solution? Solvent means your water molecules get evaporated, leaving your salt, that is NaCl, in your flame. Then salts get evaporated into vapors of the salt. So salt, first solvent, water molecules evaporated, leaving salt, then salt convert into vapor. Salt means it is in solid phase, it is convert into famous. Conversion of solid directly to gas without any liquid phase is called sublimation. Now your salt in the flame undergo sublimation, means to say solid, it is converted from solid state to gaseous state. Then it undergo dissociation into constituent atoms, means to say that, for example, we had taken NaCl, right? So sodium chloride is converted into salt first after evaporation of water. Then it will convert from solid state to gaseous state. Then after converted to gaseous state, it is dissociated to Na plus ions and Cl minus ions. Then after dissociating into Na plus ions and Cl minus, then atomization takes place in the flame. Atomization means reduction of corresponding atoms. So electrons will sodium atom get electron and get converted into sodium, Na plus to Na. Similar, chlorine atoms also get electrons and converted to chlorine, and it will escape into the flame. Why? Because chlorine atom doesn't undergo it undergo atomization, but it doesn't involves in chlorine atom electronic transitions are not possible in flame. That's why it will evaporate into the flame. Now you have reduced sodium atoms in your flame. Then metal atoms formed in the flame absorb heat energy from the flame and get electronically excited to the higher energy level, as I explained in the last slide. So now reduced metal atoms absorb heat energy, and this in the form of photon. So these, from the photons, energy has been transferred to the electrons, and these electrons excited from their ground state to excited state, as we discussed in the last slide. Then excited atoms, metal atoms, fall back to their ground state by emitting the energy in the form of radiations, as I told in the last slide. After excitation of atoms, electrons in atoms from ground state to excited state, once again they come back to ground state, releasing the light excess energy in the form of radiations. The intensity of light radiation emitted is proportional to the number of atoms in the excited state, which is in turn is proportional to the number of atoms in the flame, or the concentration of solution feed into the flame. It is straightforward. Emission is directly proportional to the number of excited atoms, which in turn tell the amount of atoms present in the flame, which in turn tell the concentration of ion present in the flame. Thus the concentration of solution is related to the intensity of your emitted radiation. So whatever, if you measure the intensity of emitted radiation, it is directly proportional to the concentration of your ions in the solution. So using our flame photometer, so we have other components in our flame photometer from which we are able to measure the intensity of emitted light, and we are going to convert that into emissions, and which we are going to after that we are correlate that to concentration. Now let us see those things, how we are correlating that emitted intensity into radiation, emitted radiations into concentration of ions in the next. These are the series of events occurring in flame as we discussed in the last slide itself. So this is a pictorial representation, that's all. See, okay, yeah, afterwards I am going to give you the complete picture of the flame photometer. So along with in order to produce flame we should use some fuel. So in general we will use acetylene fuel in case of flame photometer. So in order to burn it we need oxidant. So combustion of fuel is nothing but oxidation of fuel, as we learned that in your second module, chemical fuels module. Am I right? Now we need oxidant also. So now common oxidant is oxygen. We are going to supply air, compressed supply air, compressed air we are going to supply. So which in the form of air we are going to supply oxygen. Our natural air contains haze, however it contains other things in which will block our sample delivery system or frame. So first, that's why air has been taken from the atmosphere and it has to be compressed, and that compressed air is supplied which contains oxygen, which helps in combustion of our fuel, that is acetylene, and produce flame. Okay, then that is the function of burner. So your mist, whatever converted in your sample delivery system get burns in this burner or in the flame, and series of reactions takes place as we discussed in the earlier. Then mirrors. What is the function of mirror? Here it will focus your emitted radiations from the flame. In flame, as I told, electronic transitions occur and these atoms emits light radiation. These radiations will be properly focused onto your lens or photodetector or your monochromator. That is the function of this mirror. They are going to focus all emitted light properly onto your monochromator or lens. So monochromators or lens. This contains, monochromator means it contains two, lens as well as monochromators. That lens we had seen when we see the outline diagram of our flame photometer. So monochromator means it converts polychromatic light into monochromatic. Polychromatic means light has vibrations in all directions. Monochromatic means the light which has direction in only one direction. That is the function of this monochromator. Along with monochromator we have lens. So what is the function of this lens? This lens will allow only particular wavelength, otherwise called as filter. This will filter all other radiations coming from flame. It allows only radiations from our atom or element. Due to electronic transitions, it allows only those radiations to monochromator. This monochromator convert polychromatic light into monochromatic light. So then detector, photodetector, converts photons into photocurrent and amplifies the signal. Then readout device capable of displaying emission spectrum or emission at particular wavelength, which is correlating to the concentration of ions. This gives the different components and their functions in flame photometer. Now see, this is the complete picture of flame photometer. As I told, this is your sample test solution. So this is capillary tube through which your test solution is drawn into the sample system. What is sample delivery system? From here to here, it is sample delivery. Here sample delivery system. Atomizer means this is mixed with flame only. Okay. So here this is sample delivery system. So this is compressed air supply. So in order to supply oxygen, which is nothing but oxygen, this is compressed fuel supply. So fuel supply is generally acetylene will be produced. So this is flame and this is lens, this is slit and this is filter, otherwise called as monochromator. This is photodetector. Amplifier is there with photodetector only, and this is LCD display. Okay. Application means, for example, we can determine using this flame photometry. As I told, we can use it to determine concentration of alkali metals, especially alkali metals. So you are going to take solutions in the form of their particular ion, magnesium chloride, potassium chloride, sodium chloride, and we have to take in their salts form, and we are going to know their concentrations of these metal ions in from their unknown solutions. For example, cerebrospinal fluid contains sodium and potassium ions. You can take the cerebrospinal fluid and you can inject that directly into flame photometer, and you can know the concentration of sodium or potassium ions in our cerebrospinal fluid which is present in our brain, like that. Okay, now let us see the estimation of sodium content in given sample of water. For example, our tap water or our stream water, our river water, whatever may be the water sample, you can detect amount of sodium ions present in that using this flame photometer. How? So up to now I had not told how exactly we are going to convert that emitted radiations into concentrations. Now let us discuss that one. Okay, now for example, you have unknown solution whose in that water you have unknown water sample, one water sample, for example tap water. In that you have to determine amount of sodium ions. Okay, now you have to take that known volume of that solution whose in which sodium ion is to be determined. So you have to take that known amount of solution, for example 5 ml, 10 ml, similar to like that. So before that you have to take 6 volumetric flasks, standard volumetric flask with 50 ml capacity, standard volumetric flask with 50 ml capacity. Okay, 1 2 3 first you have to take 6 standard flasks. In that sixth one you have to take known volume, for example 5 ml or 10 ml of your unknown solution in which you have to determine your sodium ion concentration. So next 5 I will tell. So this is your test solution. So this is this flask containing your test solution. You have on that volumetric flask you label as test solution or unknown solution. So another 5 standard flasks you have to label like this. First one 0, second one 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. Fifth one is your test volumetric flask containing test solution. Now they are all of 50 ml capacity. Now for first flask which you labeled as 0, you have to take only distilled water. You have to take only distilled water up to the mark. So up to the mark. From in second you have to take, from second to fourth you have to take known amounts of samples, known amount of sodium chloride solutions. Known amount of sodium chloride solutions means you have to prepare one sodium chloride solution with some concentration. From that solution you have to take, in first number 1 standard flask you have to take 2 ml, and second 4 ml, third one 6 ml, 8, fourth one 8, and fifth one 10. So, and your sixth one is an unknown solution. Okay, so from 1 to 5 standard flask you have to take known volumes of your sodium chloride solutions whose concentration is already known. So your sixth is untested solution which contains water sample whose sodium ion is to be present. You have to take known amount in that. Okay, you should not add the standard sodium chloride solution, stock solution into that. Other than this, in this way you have to take first you should not take any, you should take completely distilled water up to the mark. In second to 4, third 2, second to third 4, fourth 6, and fifth 8 ml, and sixth 10 ml. Okay, and then for these standard flasks you have to fill up to the mark with distilled water and shake well. Now after preparation of these solution and then your test solution also you have to complete, you have to mark, you have to fill that end up to the mark with distilled water. You have to fill that also with up to the mark with distilled water. Now all the test solutions contain 50 ml of such a solution. Now you have to switch on the flame photometer. Now you have to take blank solution, means blank solution means where you have not added sodium chloride solution, it contains only distilled water. You have to aspirate that solution into your flame and you have to adjust your flame photometer to 0, means to say that it doesn't contain any sodium chloride ions. Why you have to do this? Because we don't know our distilled water may contain some sodium ions. So in order to nullify that sodium, because we are using same distilled water in order to fill all these standard solutions as well as our test solutions. To avoid that, so we are going to aspirate that distilled water into flame and make zero emissions. For that we have to adjust our instrument to zero emissions to flame. Then we have to aspirate a series of solutions from 1 2 3 4 5 and as well as our test solution into the flame, and you have to record the emissions of each solution separately, okay. And you have to filter, you have to set for 5 before aspirating your flame, your distilled water. I forgot to mention this. You have to set 589 nanometer. In filter you have to set 589 nanometer. This is for sodium. This wavelength varies depending upon element you have used. You will have some filters. So this filter will produce 589 nanometer. Otherwise it allow of light energy only 580 nanometer. Okay, like that. Okay. So for each element you have separate filters. So in order to send that particular light to the detector, okay, you have to set this 580 nanometer, and afterward you have to aspirate blank solutions followed by standard solutions and your test solution. And for all your standard solutions and test solution, you have to record the emissions. So this is the emission readings and this is the concentration of NaCl in ppm. So for example, first means we have added 2 ml of standard solution, that gives the corresponding emission. Here you put line here. Then second point, which contains 4 ml of NaCl solution whose concentration known, 6 ml and 8 ml. Now how to determine the unknown concentration, how to determine the concentration of our solution. So we had measured the emissions from the flame photometer by aspirating our test solution also. For example, this be the concentration corresponding emission value. For that we don't know the concentration of our solution. This will be the emission value. This may be the emission value of our unknown solution. Draw a line this where this meet this curve and draw another line. This is the concentration of unknown your unknown solution. This is the concentration of your unknown solution. Like this we are going to prepare standard solutions, and we have to measure the emission intensities of our standard solution along with test solution, and afterwards we have to plot emission readings versus concentration of NaCl. So we have to plot emission readings of standard solutions like this. We are going to get plot like this. Afterwards using the emission intensity of our unknown solution, you have to draw a line until it touches this curve, and afterwards downward line. This point corresponds to the concentration of our sodium ions present in your solution. Like this we are able to determine the amount of sodium ions present in your unknown solution using flame photometer.